Welcome, everybody. It's really wonderful to have all of you here, and it is a very important time for us to come together and to hear what the guides have to say, what my ancestors, teachers, relatives, mostly the Ascended Masters have to say. We are at a very critical time in history. The evolution that we have been coming to for not just decades or centuries, but millennia, is coming to a head, is coming to a cultivation. In the teachings from Yogananda and from Hindu culture, there are different segments of time that are called Yugas, and you may be familiar with those. We've just come, there's basically 3, I think, or 4 Yugas, and there's a descending Yuga, a Kali Yuga, and if you know about the goddess Kali, it's a time of tearing everything apart, and then the ascending, and we are just right at the point where we've come out of Kali Yuga and we're moving into the ascending Yuga that is the next several, I think the next 1,000 years or more. And I think the whole thing is a 20,000 year cycle, so we're setting the tone at this time for a whole new peaceful, loving, more harmonious existence, believe it or not. So the guides will speak to that. We are also at a time when we are evolving really quickly. So a lot of people are in a crosshairs right now of conflict within themselves around where are we going, what am I supposed to be doing, how am I supposed to be moving in this time? Because all appearances say that we're going to, going down the drain. The truth is we're not going down the drain. We are actually in the Umbanda tradition, which is South American tradition. They always do going into the dark ceremony before they come out into the light ceremony. And we are doing exactly that. We are in the dark time. But you've also noticed things are starting to break up. The Me Too movement is a huge indicator of that. Exposure of patriarchal dark underbelly that's been going on forever, that we all know has been going on forever, which has not been brought out into the light of day, and now it's being brought out in the light of day. So all of these things, plus the blatant lies and craziness that's going on in the government, we have to see what's really happening here. While he is doing what he told his constituents he would do, what's really happening is then he's doing all these deals on the side to benefit his business and his work. Now, that's completely unethical, and they are calling him on it, and all of that whole process is part of this because it's about exposing what may have gone on with other presidents for some time. And now it's time we're not doing this anymore. People are fed up. There's also a whole new energy coming in that is having to do with us raising ourselves from fear and anger to love. And this has been going on for some time, but now it's really at a pinnacle. It's like we really have to stop the fear base and move into love base. And that is what's happening with everybody on the planet. You are the lucky ones because you know about it, and you sense it, and you feel it happening, and you're in tune with your emotions, and you're in tune with yourself. But a lot of people aren't, and there's a lot more strange behavior going on and people doing wacky things because they're not in touch with what's really happening, and it's making them a little crazy. So imagine someone that's been in a dark room for 20,000 years, and all of a sudden someone shines a light in there. How disorienting that is for some people, because we have been in the dark. We have been in the lower centers in fear, anger, ancestral lineage of passing things down kind of unconsciously from one family to the other without understanding what's authentic to us. So another piece of what's happening right now is there's this huge thing where conditioning has got to go. Any of the conditionings that we've had growing up that don't fit for us, and that doesn't mean like, our parents were monsters and they did all the wrong things. That doesn't mean that. It means that they did the best they could with the tools they had, and that each of us has to evaluate those tools and whether or not they fit for us. So their job, parents' job, and many of you are mothers, the job is to give your kids tools that they can survive in this world with. And what's happening right now is they need to take it and look at those tools. We all need to look at our tools and see if they are serving us. Mm-hmm. If we have been passed down a whole lot of fear and anger, then we need to let go of that as a base of communication or relationship. We just can't do that anymore. So I wanted to give that little preamble because I have no idea what they're going to talk about tonight, but I know there's a full moon tomorrow night, and that full moon is bringing in a huge amount of energy, and it is a time to kind of lay out the next year, because next year is going to be an action year. Next year's in 2020, it's when things are going to really start moving and accelerating really fast. And those of us who have been in this work for a long time, like I'll give you an example. I know several other practitioners that do similar work that I do. We're all trying to get our classes online. We're trying to get things set up, and we're working to get those things happening because they need to be in place by the end of the year, and that we all feel this pressure. My colleagues that I work with have worked with over the years. So there's a pressure to kind of like get it together, get them up, get things moving so you have a understanding of what has to happen. And it's going to be worldwide. So I'm already reaching international people all over the world with the work I'm doing, and it's just word of mouth. Because I have no big budgets, I can tell you that. So it's all about word of mouth, and it's going to get bigger. And those of us doing this work, it's going to get bigger, and we need to be ready. So we're many of us. I actually have a meeting tomorrow with a colleague who, the two of us are going to be a tag team for each other, so we can get the tasks done that we need to get done. So very excited about all that, and I think it's really going to be fun. I've been working at it for many, many years, so it's not like just bombed into it, but it is going to be an accelerated time. So are there any questions about any of that before we do the channeling tonight?
One thing that just real quick that came to mind, probably people hear about this a lot, is just all this energy, the solar flares, and all this energy coming in from the cosmos. And then I think that energy too, because you're talking about being in a dark room, and even for some of us who aren't in the dark room, the energy hits us and it's like, wow, what's going on? It can be so disorienting.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It is. Like you could speak to that for a second or help us understand.
Right. So imagine if I'm just going to throw a couple ideas out there that I've actually heard through a new film that's being aired about the sixth sun. I don't know if any of you have seen that online. I was looking at it last night, and one of the ideas is that we are going to be able to create Tesla-like instruments and energy stations that just draw the energy from the air, because the energy is all around us, and it will draw it without fossil fuel, without solar panels. It'll just absorb it and then channel it to the places that need it to be. They've actually found some of these objects in Egypt in the tombs, and they're also supposed to be like landings that are going to be happening with ETs and things like that. There's a whole group of, don't get me started on this stuff, but
being aligned.
Yeah, I'll take it all with a large grain of salt, a large block of salt. But I do know that I'm not from here. I know that I'm from Star Sirius, and several other people might feel that they are from the stars. the Native American people all feel like they are star beings. That was part of what I learned during sun dances and Aguchidaya ceremonies and other ceremonies that I've been in. Native people have a theology, especially the Lakota, that they were born of the stars and they'll return to the stars. And some of them have, the geography of the Black Hills, that they believe they came out of the Black Hills and then they combined with star beings. They have a whole mythology about it. And it's all on their old drawings and teepees, and there's documentation for this. So I think what's important to know is this isn't the first time this has happened, this energy explosion, but we are at a culminating point where it hasn't happened like this for probably 20 or 30,000 years. So we are really at a new moment, a new moment. So what's happening is the energy, heavens are opening up, and this energy is pouring in from the guides, the angels, from the team of beings that are holding the earth. Archangel Michael is part of that. And they are holding the earth in love and setting up that vibration so that those of you that are attuned to it are getting like waves of love coming in. And some may even get it, if you just sit still, you can feel energy washing over you, especially if you keep your back straight and you're sitting in meditation, it just starts coming over you. That is the divine light that's coming in. And imagine not only being in the dark, but imagine that it's like, what's happening right now is the exposure to the light for people who have been living in a dishonest way or out of alignment is almost like they're rats in a room and the light's being shined on them. Okay, so they're scurrying around the outside and trying to get away. But the thing is, it's happening to everybody. And not to say that they're rats. They are divine beings also. They just have no clue about it. And they have no connection with it. They have no connection to love as being actually what we are. So I'm sure that WuLan and other guides that are going to be coming in will talk more about that. I tend to have one major guide. His name is WuLan. He's a Tibetan teacher, and he usually comes in first. Then what I'll be doing is bringing them in my body if you haven't seen a channeling before, and they're going to be talking to you, just like I'm talking to you now. And what I do is I step back here, and I'm hanging out over here, and then so I can have dialogue with him, and I'm a conscious medium, so I have a awareness of what's happening. We are filming this, and I'm putting it on YouTube, so people will have more information. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Then there may be a series of other guides that come in, but I have no idea who's going to come. So I always just ask for the highest and wisest good for all beings. So I'm going to put us in a circle of light and healing. Make this a safe and healing place for all of you, calling on all my guides and spirits and all of yours for our mutual highest and wisest good, and so it is. Well, hello everyone. It is I, WuLan, and as you can see, I am not Robin's energy. Yes. I am her teacher, as she has said, but she's really my teacher because she is the one at ground zero down here in the earth plane, and the rest of us are helping and directing from the astral world. I am part of the Ascended Master team, and there are many of us that are here to guide and help the planet at this very tumultuous time. So, what I want to speak about tonight has to do with the reality of the change that is occurring and the wave of energy that is happening, the wave after wave of energy. It is a little bit like tsunamis of light coming in. So there will be nowhere to hide and nowhere to not get conscious about your issues. This is for everyone. And those issues are coming up and leaving quicker than they ever have. So if you are a therapist or do any kind of work with other people, you may notice that the issues are coming up and they're clearing them quicker than they have before. And the deeper the issue, the less, it's almost like the deep issues of childhood abuse or, terrible tragedies that have happened, the energy of the emotion that's in those, there are more and more ways now to clear that emotion so that the trauma can be released. It is very important for people to do that inner work and look at those traumas, because it is the end of the time when that kind of trauma will be continued to be perpetrated on people. So this has been a part of the patriarchal system for many millennia. And now we are releasing it and we are letting it go. It actually began much further back in Atlantis and has been evolving over time and integrating with those beings of light and thwarting the light on many occasions. But that is over now. So that is the best news that I can give you, is that the dark forces and the light forces that have been at it for a very long time, the dark forces are leaving, and they are not going to have the sway over others that they have had in the past. Does that make sense? Yes. So how do I know this? How do we know this? Well, you might notice yourselves, as the more work you do on yourselves, uprooting these old issues, you feel lighter and more joy and more peace and more harmony. That is the proof of the pudding, because everyone has darker issues that have held them back or have thwarted them in some way. Now, you are the exception. And your generation, I will say, because these young people coming in at this time are coming in at a very high level of avatar. They are coming in already aware and conscious that they are in alignment with love. Love, the earth, peace, and harmony. We can witness that by the recent protests that occurred all over the world simultaneously by the young people. And these were not just college kids, these were high school kids, and in some cases elementary kids that were protesting with their families and their parents. And this happened all over the world, in every city, every major city in the world. Now that is hopeful. That is hopeful. Peaceful protests about the earth. But without a doubt, in the face of the old guard. So the old guard is letting go. And it is not doing it without a fight, however. Have you noticed that? Almost every week it feels like there's more corruption that's being uncovered. And not only in the administration, but in other areas of the government, of the good old boy network. And it's all going by the wayside. Now, I don't want to completely diss the patriarchy, because it has been a form of protection against warring factions. But if we are no longer interested in war and no longer wanting to finish conflicts that way, even the consciousness in the government says, oh, do we have to do that again? Let's not do the fight again. We don't want to fight again. Let's just work it out at the negotiating table. You see it more of a trend over and over again where people do not want to engage in that way. And not only do the leaders not want to engage, the military does not want to engage that way. They are very aware that it costs so much human life and it costs so much economically. So this is very hopeful when you think about it. Okay. Now, those that are willing to fight it out in the political arena, that is very good. They can do that. But the real battle is within ourselves. And once we recognize that the dark part of ourselves, or the hidden part of ourselves, the subconscious, as they would say in psychology, the subconscious aspects, they're saying that most people are walking around with 80% of their consciousness in the dark. 80%. So the only thing that's up here is a very superficial 20%. Those of you who have been working on yourselves over the last several years or decades, you've got that pretty well cleared out. So you are operating as conscious beings. Or you're at 80-20, 80 consciousness, 20% that's unconscious. Now what's wonderful about this is that there's a tipping point. So once you pass about 70% consciousness, 30% non-consciousness, and these are random numbers, but they give you some sense of idea, the grace will kick in. And the rest will just come up spontaneously as you need it to release. So grace, Yogananda had a formula that we have to put in 25% effort toward our spiritual opening. The guru does 25%, and grace is the 50%. So that was his formula. Now, if you have not a guru, or you do not have a teacher that you believe in, or that you feel is guiding you, that's okay. Think of a great aunt, grandmother, or someone that's important to you, or grandfather, that is an example of divine love. That could be suffice for your teacher. But of course we have Buddhist teachers, we have Hindu teachers, we have gurus, we have Jesus Christ, we have many other, Muhammad is a teacher. There are many others that are divine teachers. And we can just pick one. If you wish to be in their ray or in their light form. Now, Robin has Yogananda, but Yogananda represents a whole pantheon of beings. Yogananda, Swami Kriyananda, who is the one who came through to bring his teachings in Ananda. There is also, Sri Yukteswar, who was the teacher of Yogananda, and then there was Lahiri Mahashaya, who was the teacher of Sri Yukteswar. Then there is Krishna and the Christ consciousness, the Jesus consciousness, or Christ consciousness. So in the lineage of Yogananda, you have all of those different guides. And then there's Divine Mother. Divine Mother is the one they all pray to. And Divine Mother is the darkness behind the stars. She is known as the great star woman. She's also known as Kali. She's known as all the female deities. But in her most benevolent form, she is Star Woman, and she may be coming to visit tonight, so we shall see. So Star Woman, or Divine Mother, is the actual substance of the universe. The actual substance of the universe. That love bath that you are all living in. If you doubt this, think of everything that comes out of the earth and how much it is given and given and given. Everything you have comes from the earth. Your food, your clothing, your shelter, the heat, the oil, the gasoline, everything you use in your car, all of it comes out of the earth. Or is part of the earth atmosphere, mixing with air and water. So this is a loving act, giving and giving and giving. And there is a limit. especially with those who do not say thank you. So the new attitude, there is a trend now, and actually it will be accelerating, that Divine Mother and her being needs, and Mother Earth in particular, that what she needs is to have others be grateful. Say thank you. Really simple. Imagine oil fields where the men taking the oil out of the earth would stop for a moment and say thank you to the Mother Earth. That would change the entire way that oil is being taken out of the ground. Imagine those out at sea, taking fish out of the sea. Just stopping with this huge net of abundance and saying thank you. You might have seen the anchovy balls that are out in the ocean in Capitola right now. There are thousands of birds, but you can look in the water and you can see all this sparkling, and there are huge anchovy colonies that are feeding the birds right now. And it's wonderful because, the Mother Earth is so abundant. All of that is part of the Mother Earth energy. So all we have to do is say thank you and be grateful. And the gratitude is very much a part of this new consciousness. You see, walking the earth with gratitude. Now, who has laid all of that out? What culture? Walking in gratitude. American Indians, yes. The Native American people have survived the onslaught of the changes that occurred in this country. And now they're bringing their teachings and traditions back in. In southern Utah, for instance, there are writers and people that are advocates of the earth who are listening to the native people about how to care for the Escalante staircase, for instance, and for other areas. And they're going back to the native people of that area and saying, tell us, teach us, how do we do this? What do we need to do? And in their traditions, they've always been grateful, generous. They celebrated abundance, and they celebrated peace, love, and harmony with each other. Now, it wasn't always peaceful, loving, and harmonious, but they had a cultural base that they could come back to, where people sit in circles, where they include, the women are not only included, but they are revered. This whole trend of matrilineal culture and tradition, not to say that it will become matriarchal, but to say that it will become a circle where everyone's included, that this is the new awareness, the new consciousness. So we are you are at a very amazing time in history to be here at this change, at this great change. And you all have signed up for this very deliberately. So you're in the right place. So I'm going to stop for a moment and ask questions and see if you have questions that you would like to share.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the purpose of technological advancement?
Technological advancement is here to help humanity and the earth if it's used properly. Now, it cannot be run by adolescents just making product to sell. It has to be done with consciousness. And so this is why we see a lot of the leaders of the tech industry on the hot seat right now for their values and their morality. They are as much on the hot seat as the patriarchal men that have been running governments for too long. So what is coming about at this moment? It's like technology has done this and morality has done this. And now we are the good thing about the current administration in Washington is that it's going like this. It's pointing to this lower consciousness of values and morality, and it's saying we need to bring that up together, because in the opposite direction, you see, by bad example, he is showing us what we need to do. See, so he's being a great bad example, and so we can say we don't want that. We don't want that for this country. We want it to be a moral country. We want it to be an honest country. We want people to have a voice, and everyone must have a voice. And therefore, morality needs to meet technology and actually hold it and say, is this good for humanity or not? There are many things that need to be righted in technology that will be in alignment with this new awakening that's happening right now. And technology is a good thing when it's used with awareness. Otherwise, it can be just used like an addiction, like anything else. And it becomes another form of addiction. And another way to just blank out and not have any consciousness. So we have to be very careful of how we use it. Does that make sense?
How much does it, my question in addition to that is, how much is it the people who create the technology with the intention of manipulation versus every individual's responsibility to use that as a tool? But if it's created with the purpose of manipulating someone, how can you use that intentionally?
You all are each individual universes. And whatever the person's intention was that created that, it wasn't just one person, it was a team of people. You can override that with your intention. So, for instance, I will give Robin as an example because she's the one I know the best. And I would say that in her life, she limits technology. She has an old cell phone. Now it's getting to the point where she's going to need to get a new one, but she's had it for 6-7 years. She's an I3, I believe, or something like that. Works fine for her. She doesn't see emails on it. She doesn't want to. She doesn't look at it for email. She looks at it for her phone calls and keeping track of things. So she's done that deliberately to limit how much is going out in her attention to that particular phone. And the same with her computer. Now, this is a nice computer, but it's an old one. And she has it that way because of the certain technologies that she wants to have on it that are no longer, they've all gone to the cloud, you know. And she doesn't want to go into the cloud because she has books on here and she has other things on here, you see. She doesn't want to deal with cloud. So she's set up her limits, her parameters to limit the technology deliberately. Now, there's certain points at which it will become impossible for her to continue that way for very long. I mean, she'll have to get a new computer and a new phone eventually. But she's going to do it on her terms, you see. So you can set you are each individual universes, and you can decide how you want to use that technology for your highest good. Period. Okay? Good.
How dangerous is that technology to our physical being? Wi-Fi, as an example, or cordless phones and 5G showing up. Can you speak to that?
There is danger in it, yes, and so you have to be wary. Even smart meters, people have very high sensitivity to smart meters. You have to have a very specific awareness of what works for you and what doesn't. And how you can protect yourself. There are devices where you can put them on a computer or on a smart device and limit it, but you can get, the technology of like Siri, they're collecting all your data. Everything you listen to is being collected. So is that a technology you need or want? Do you need that tied to your light and your refrigerator and everything else? No, people are rejecting it. And the ultimate power is with you. You see, am I going to consume that and have that or not? I don't need it. I don't want it. It's not going to be in my house, you see. Because it does mean that your house is wired, and there's microwaves going around all over the place to pick up all these things, all these devices, you see. So you have to make your own decisions about it. But I think if people walk with their feet, away from it, it will stop. You see, you can push it on somebody, but if you don't pick it up and use it, they have no power over you.
Yeah, but the bulk of humanity can't wait for the next device to come up. 5G.
That's true, but you can make your own choices. Yeah. And it makes a difference when you do that. It makes a difference. You have to live according to your own values and not let things just swim along and follow the trend. It's very important for you to pay attention to what feels right in you, because you are being guided. And your inner barometer, your inner awakening sense of yes, or as Louise Hay used to say, that inner ding, that is very important to listen to, because it is your internal guidance to the right path for you. There will come a time when there's a huge division between those of awakened consciousness and those not of awakened consciousness. And you're already seeing the polarity. But what you must understand is, while you have been raised in the third dimensional consciousness of a polarity, of a duality, of right, wrong, this way, that way, that is now becoming a unified field, and the way to move beyond that is through love and through acceptance of your own divine consciousness, so that you can then embrace the duality within yourself. So the duality is actually dissolving, the idea of duality on this planet. And actually Mother Earth herself is raised in consciousness beyond that duality. She's not holding that energy anymore. She was doing it for a long time in order to help people to come into their own what's true, make a choice, what's right for you, what's not right for you. But now she's not doing it anymore. So we're just running out an old pattern. If you find yourself in a dualistic conflict, just notice if it's really true for you, or is it a pattern that you just need to let go of now? You see? Does that make sense? It's very important, because those old patterns can be like structures that no longer are necessary. And in the heart path process that Robin uses, that I gave to her, that we gave to her at the Ascended Master team, that heart path process, it's very exciting because it actually dissolves those structures with just coming into more harmony and love. So you can take a look at those structures. Sometimes they look like little white boxes, but they are just old energy of fear-based structure that's no longer necessary. So this is good. This is all good news, by the way. And yet you have to be witnessing the illusion that's being spun out there. You have to see through it. And that is very important, because there is a huge illusion machine that's like saying, look over here, look over here. It's like, no, I'm going to be right here. Yes.
So I have a question, because I'm in the education system.
Yes.
And have a lot of concerns for what I see happening with our kids in our current education system. And do you have any insights for those of us in the system, how we can create some of the changes that are needed?
That's a very big question. The spirit of these children are very resilient. Their spirits are resilient. And if you give them enough acknowledgement of who they are and their capacity, that is going to go a long way for them to then follow the path of their heart that feels right. Acknowledgement is something that people often pass over because they're always looking at how to control the masses. And, one kid that might have ADD or something that's disturbing the whole class. But if you can work from acknowledgement to them and see who they are in there, and then set up rules so that their cell phones go away, and there's certain things where they don't have the technology. They won't have the technology for at least a few hours during the day, so that they're not allowed to have them, and they need to be in their backpacks, and they need to be shut off, and so on and so forth. Those are all very good rules. Robin went back to graduate school a few years back, in 2010, and she went to Mills College and did a master's in fine arts. It was something she promised herself. And that every class, the teachers say, if I see a cell phone out, you will flunk the class. Not you will be kicked out of class. You will flunk this class. So if I see any cell phones out, texting, any of that stuff, you're out of here. And you'll get an F. You will get an F. Well, the F in graduate school is like, kicks you out of graduate school.
Right.
So but every single teacher laid that parameter out. Because they're so addicted to the cell phone and to the technology, and unless it was for the class, on an iPad, a certain talk or something, that was fine. But not on a regular basis, not sitting there like this while someone's talking. So those parameters are already being established. But I think that what the kids need is acknowledgement and love and caring and knowing that someone cares about them, whether or not they're acting out. Because they're acting out for reasons. They're acting out because their nervous systems are having a hard time. And there are lots of children that have hard, challenging nervous systems right now. Because of the technology, because of the pollution in the earth, because of what they've been eating, because of the sugar that's been permeated everywhere. Just think of this, 150 years ago, sugar was only used in very rare occasions. And maybe 300 years ago, before rum became a big thing, you see. That was not prevalent. Sugar was not prevalent in the diets of anyone. And now we have sugar everywhere. And it's another drug. You see, it acts like a drug for people. It's very important to know that, so that you can limit your sugar intake, because it really doesn't help you. It doesn't help your body. So it actually is food for cancer. So if you've had, any kind of cancer, you go through that process. If the doctor neglects to tell you that sugar is a bad thing for you, then they are not doing their job, because it is very bad for people, especially that have had cancer. It's what cancer feeds on. Now, if you think of, let's talk about that for a second, because if you think of a cancer cell, what is it? It's an adolescent, wild, untamed cell that's eating itself, eating everything around it. It's a insatiable cell. Now you can turn that around by not feeding it, by not giving it what it wants. And also you can turn it around by finding out the part of the self or the consciousness that is consuming in that way, with unconsciousness, you see, everything around it. So that untamed energy that arises in some people that they have to deal with, one of the best things they can do is look at what the underlying cause is. What is that underlying cause? That's not to say it's the fault of the person that has it, but what is the underlying consciousness that's allowing that to continue, you see, allowing that energy. And it may be a child part of the self or a wild part of the self that's trying to survive. And 99% it's a part of the self that's trying to survive. But in a kind of a way that's not helping anything, you see. So I'm saying that because the adolescent energies, are you working in a middle school? Yes.
Yeah, K through, well, I run a special ed program for a K through 8 school.
So you see a lot of the young people who are being affected by their nervous systems, and I would imagine autistic children and other children that have severe problems. And that is, my hat is off to you, by the way, because it's a very challenging field. But also it's very necessary that they be held in a place of love, and that where they are is where they are, and beginning, of course, there, rather than trying to get them to some other place. Many of the autistic children are very bright. They just have their nervous systems are just in a place where they're way too sensitive, and their sensitivity, they have no barometer to turn it down or turn it off, you see.
Thank you.
I hope that helps.
Very much.
Oh, good. So, there are many others lined up here, so I'm going to exit and let them come in and talk to you. We have a very wonderful team over here, and they are helping us in so many ways, helping the planet, and they wish to speak to you, so I shall depart. Namaste.
Thank you.